Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Good morning. This is Stan in Gainesville, Florida. I'm back, and today we're discussing shutting down your movers, lighting viruses, and crappy old Kleigl Lecos, all on Light Talk.
And this is David, coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers. Hey, welcome.
I heard you guys were talking about the best Lumen Brother. That's a terrible idea.
You know, it was actually a listener who claimed that Brackley was the best Lumen Brother. So
there's a reason we keep him around.
What is that?
Well, he's a good guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well.
Yeah.
It wasn't his fault. He was just answering a question. I thought he actually sort of, slipped out of that pretty well.
He danced around it pretty well.
It was good.
Yeah.
But anyway, welcome back, Stan K. Stan K
Thank
hasn't
you.
been with us in about 6 months, so it's happy to have him back here. And
glad to be back.
Yeah. And we're glad to have you. But welcome everyone to episode 153. 153. And a lot has happened this week, and lots of crazy things in our business. We're actually going to be talking about it later on in our Let's Talk About segment. My students did the Chauvet workshop, which is great. It's put on by Deanna Paget and the wonderful people Chauvet and Chamsis. All these amazing designers were there. I had a long talk with Jeff Ravitz and all that, and a lot of other people. But anyway, it was wonderful, wonderful event, and we want to thank Chamsis and Chauvet for contributing to the education of young lighting designers. Also, this is, episode 153, and you know what that means?
It's almost another season.
That's right. Episode 156 will be our anniversary show, our third anniversary. We've been doing this for 3 years, and we'll be starting our fourth year.
We're not going to have a divorce, but separations are good.
Yes. Yeah, well, we're not really married. We're sort of indentured servants to each other.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So we're coming up with a great show for our anniversary show. We always like to do something special, and I think we have something very special this year.
I heard rumors.
Yeah, well, the rumors right now look like they're going to happen. So tune in. We'll give you notice, believe me, when that week comes along, but that's only 3 weeks away.
Is it going to be big, blockbusting news?
Well, yeah, I guess. It depends on how you rate news.
I have a shameless plug to put in.
Go for it, Steve.
And it's about Design Showcase East, which
yes.
is going to be Monday, May the 11th in New York City. And the breaking news on that is that this year we have 50 portfolios that we're showing in New York City at the Alvin Ailey Studios.
Wow.
So reference our website, Design Showcase East, if you would like to attend. It is free and open to the public, and this is an opportunity to come see some of the very best BFA and MFA graduates in the country at the Alvin Ailey Studios.
You going to have tequila shots this year?
We have Jell-O shots.
Oh, Jell-O shots. Yeah, well, there you go. Non-alcoholic Jell-O shots.
You remember you were there a couple years ago.
Yeah.
We have an open bar set up. We have hors d'oeuvres. We have all that little finger food running around. People are having a good time, shaking hands, meeting students. That off Broadway crowd is there. I mean, it's a party.
It is a party.
It is a job fair. It is a party. People have a good time, and a lot of people get hired right off the showcase floor.
That's right. And it's in a beautiful location. That studio's gorgeous. It has a beautiful view. I just really enjoyed it. So yeah, Showcase East, Design Showcase East. Also, the Design Showcase West will be following a few weeks later, and that is I guess it's at UCLA. I haven't heard anything about Design Showcase West.
It is at UCLA, and it usually, you can look at their website, Design Showcase West, and if memory serves me right, I believe it is the first weekend of June.
Right. So that's terrific, too. Anyway, let's get on with our show. Steve has our first listener question.
I have a question from Jim in Iowa. And Jim writes, what's the big deal about shutting down your movers and just walking away? The lamps are made to deal with heat. I don't want to wait around for the lamp to cool down. Well, Jim, you have a point. But Let me just say, you're thinking about the wrong thing. Yes, that lamp is made to deal with heat, and it's not the best thing in the world, but the lamp's probably not going to go kerplunk if you turn your mover off without letting it cool down. Probably still a bad idea. But really what you're cooling down is everything else inside that fixture. You're cooling down everything else, particularly the motors. So all that other stuff does not handle heat very well. So if you keep shutting your lights down and turning your fans off before the internal components have a chance to cool down, you're going to shorten the life of everything else in your fixture. And regarding lamps, there's a whole new generation of lamps that are coming out that do need some cooling down. If you look at the Verilight VL10, that beam wash unit, it uses a 550 25R platinum lamp. It even has a little warning thing. When you turn it off, there's a little message that comes up that says, "Let me cool down for 8 minutes." and so
please let me cool down.
So you'll see that little message, and then when it's cool, another little message will come up and say it's safe to shut down. So I would not be too cavalier about lamps. They certainly need the cooling also.
It's like, I'm too hot. You got to let me cool down.
Yeah, I need cooling off too. When I'm on the treadmill, I have to go to the low setting for about 6 minutes before I'm cooled down.
There you go.
We're all machines in some way, kind of, sort of,
Stan is waxing philosophical now.
I am.
We are machines. Of course, we're talking about discharge lamps. We're not talking about LEDs.
Right.
Just to clarify that.
So since you mentioned the LEDs, so I just opened the project and it's got 9 LED movers and there won't be a technician there, right? So the LEDs power up when you push a preset button on the wall and so on. And, there's a question about, how do they power off? Because even though, when you turn the LED fixture off and no lights coming out of it, all the components are still warm. So, is it good to just leave them on 24 hours a day? I guess you could if you're ETC. They told me in their demo room they don't turn them off, but that's their demo room. They've got plenty of spares. So we actually use smart breakers, and so the power to the fixture head will turn off after it's not getting DMX for a certain period of time because the driver doesn't really want to sit on all the time. And plus, in the building, we don't want the heat load. It's unnecessary use of energy, so it's not really a green idea either.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And getting back to the discharge lamp thing, Steve says, they won't explode when you shut them down, but they probably will when you turn them on.
No, it's never a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the big thing about New York, isn't it? Your show comes to an end. They take the curtain call. The curtain comes in. And the stagehand walks over and goes kabam and pulls down the main power, killing power to everything except stage management. So, I would suspect there's a lot of people out there that would like to pay that stagehand to hang out 5 more minutes and let everything cool down. It's a big deal.
What would be interesting is, wouldn't it be kind of cool if there was a little bit of software in there where somebody could flip a switch and there would be an internal timer or a temp sensor, and you could leave you could walk away and the fan will run, and then after it hits 6 minutes or 8 minutes or whatever the recommended time frame is, it then flips off.
Doesn't help you if they unplug the light.
Nope, that's for sure.
If they kill power, they kill power.
Yeah, right. That's true.
And then there's that interminable question. If you're going off for a 1-hour lunch break, what do you do with the fixtures? Do you turn them off? Well, the most common thing that we do, and the most common practice, is that you open up all the shutters, open up all the irises, you place it in its home position, which means that the light is pointed straight down. You go home straight down because the heat will then go up through the lamp where it needs to go, through the fixture. If you have them upside down open, then that's a whole different situation. The heat goes through all the Gobos and everything else. You want to get everything as far away from the heat as possible, because if you keep shutting them on and off, again, somewhat common knowledge, the process of firing up the lamp actually takes a lot more life out of it than just keeping it on for that hour. Sometimes it's 2 hours too. So yeah, that's what we normally do. Hey, Deb in California writes, can my lighting console get a virus?
Does she mean the software, or does she mean like the thing? can a virus live on your light board? I actually, it's a good question. I've never known a light board to get a computer virus. Have you guys? Like from a bad memory stick or something, or?
Well, it's unlikely that your lighting console is going to get a virus. If you think about it, most viruses come from opening an email with an attachment, then clicking the email and hitting start. And really, even that's not a virus. Most of that's simply malware. So it's kind of unlikely that your lighting console is going to get a virus. If you put your show on a memory stick, and if it's unique to your show and you're not carrying around a lot of other things on it, you're not using that memory stick for everything, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be really difficult for your console to get a virus. It hasn't been a problem in the sound world for years. So I haven't thought about it from a lighting point of view.
That's a really good point, to have dedicated memory sticks. Buy new ones and do not throw them into a different machine. Just keep them dedicated for that lighting console. And always, for good practice, you should have 3 memory sticks for every show. One stays with the board, one stays with the programmer, and one stays with your assistant. And you update it after every single call. That way you always have updated, your show backed up. And if the theater burns down, actually, not the theater burns down. If the light board is stolen, then all you have to do is rent another one and throw that memory stick. If the memory stick it was in the light board and it was stolen, and that was the only backup you had of the show, you're kind of screwed. Or you could even back it up into a cloud or something like that, some sort of cloud service like Dropbox.
Yeah, we do that. We do that.
Years ago, Brackley's Grand MA was stolen from UNLV. He found it on eBay, so he and the police went to get their console.
Oh, that's funny.
I loved it.
It did happen. So just to be tongue-in-cheek, we could say that the software that runs your lighting console is quarantined because it doesn't really go out with anybody else. And you could say that you want to keep your memory sticks, quarantined and not let them intermingle with other bits of memory. I remember back in the day when light boards crashed a lot, and I don't really knew exactly why, but they did. And sometimes you would lose your show. I don't hear about that very much anymore. I don't hear of consoles crashing. Would you guys agree or disagree?
Right. The board may not crash, but I'll tell you what, files easily get corrupted. It just happened to my students at the Chauvet thing. The file was corrupted when they gave it to the programmer, even their backup file. So something happened when they transferred their pre-programming onto the memory stick and then loading it into the console. And they had to rewrite the whole show from the beginning. And as I explained to them, sometimes that's not a bad thing. Because in our careers, we kind of spanned across the development of the memory board. And early memory boards would crash all the time. They'd destroy your data and things like that. Time. And there are several occasions where I had to relight the show in an hour or an hour and a half. Yeah. Once I had to relight it from behind the curtain. I was actually in front of house where the board was. The curtain was down. The audience was a dinner theater, Burt Reynolds Dinner Theater. And I lit the show without seeing it. I lit it blind. And the curtain went up, and it looked better than when I lit it. I spent 2 days lighting it. I say, wait a second. But it's true, because then you think in very broad strokes, and you're doing it pretty fast and just putting the essential lights in. And the show ends up looking pretty damn good.
You get to the core of the design.
You get to the core of the design.
You know what? But to somebody's point about clouds, now what we do at UF is after every night, I ask the associate to take the show file and put it on our e-learning site. We have an e-learning site for the shows. And this way, like, the university is responsible for the quality of those servers. And we never had to use it, but I want like last night's version up there just in case, because I come from that era where things did crash. But we haven't had one. But again, we're not pushing our boards anywhere near what Steve just described with 72 universes. We're just not doing that at school.
Right. So Stan has the next question.
Yeah, Jenny in Alabama says, I'm using Gobos with logos.
Gobos with logos.
Gobos with logos. Hey, there's a show title. Gobos with logos in a moving light. And when I index the Gobo to just the right place, it looks great. We record it. When we come back to the queue, its index is changed. What's up?
All right, I got before we start, because this just came into my mind.
Go ahead.
Like I said, we were part of the Chauvet thing, and the way it would work, there were 3 schools involved. Each team would show their work, and then at the end of the work, all these great designers would critique it in the theater. We all had microphones, and it was funny because it was a huge rig of Chauvet, really great equipment, and Jeff Ravitz at the end of during his critique for every single team says, "Where are the Gobos? You didn't use any Gobos." As it turned out of this huge rig, 3 teams, songs that last 3-4 minutes long, not one Gobo was used. So I think there's a sea change. I think there's a sea change happening.
The anti-Gobo phase?
It's the anti-Gobo thing. So
I think Gobos are 5 minutes ago. They are 5 minutes ago.
Exactly. And it's funny because, the students are on stage when they were being critiqued, and you'd hear them chuckle, behind their breath. Another old timer asked us to use Gobos. It was really hysterical. But go ahead.
So I didn't know this, but I've been working on a project where we had custom Gobos made. I won't name the name of the company who supplied the Gobos.
Apollo?
And we... Shh. And we spent some time, quite a bit of time, lining up these. Some of them are multicolor, some of them are single color, getting them lined up just right. And they look beautiful. They look fantastic. Client is happy. And then we record the preset, and then they're getting recorded to an architectural controller, and everything seems fine. And then we go back to them, and they're like off. Like sometimes a lot, sometimes a little, and sometimes they're perfect. So we're scratching our heads. It's going on and on and on. And the first reaction from... I don't want to say too much about people who might be hearing this, but the light's a problem. We have to get a new light. You should send the light back. I'm like, really? That would really be like, wow, that's like a lot of money. I mean, that's a hassle in this situation, right? And that's a lot of money. And is it really the light that's causing it? So I just said, I better do a little bit more due diligence. So I called a friend, one of the best looking men we know, right, who answers the phone in minutes. I call. And he says, "Oh, do you have custom Gobos?" I said, "Yeah." "Well, they have to be exactly the right diameter, and they have to be exactly the right thickness." "Well, they are exactly the right diameter, and they are exactly the right thickness. We checked that." But I didn't know this. So on these Gobos that can be indexed, at least under this manufacturer, there's a little tab on a metal ring that is adhered to the glass with 3 dots of RTV 106, which is a special silicone. And that little tab sits in a little notch inside the holder. So when you spin the Gobo to get it aligned, the Gobo in the holder doesn't rotate in the holder. Like, oh my God, so that's it. So now we can fix it, but we really didn't know what that was. So so the lesson is, if you're buying a custom Gobo, make sure that you check with the manufacturer that the way that Gobo is produced, and in particular if it's going to index, that it has this notch. Now, I don't know if that's the case on all manufacturers. I'm going to have to look into that, but it is on this major manufacturer. So that's my story. And that could be what's happening to you, because it was happening to me. You are listening to Light Talk with the Lumen spitting Gobos and Brothers. Light Talk is sponsored by...
We have a public service announcement from No More 10 out of 12s. Since the dawn of theater, green has been the red-headed stepchild of color, relegated to a color that is only good for a psych. Don't believe me? When was the last time your teacher looked at your plot and said, "Hey, a little green would help"? Or, "A little green would really make the moment"? Or, "You can't go wrong with green"? No, your teacher looks at you like you just grew a third eye, then counters your bold color choice with a pink, an amber, or a Lee 201. For too long, green has been associated with ambition, green, sickness, cowardice, discord, and jealousy. For too long, green has been the color of witches, goblins, and evil leprechauns. For too long, green has been the go-to villain in Hollywood. Just look no further than the Blob, the Green Goblin, or Greedo in Star Wars. For too long, my friends, the green jelly bean has been cast aside. Well, no more. It stops today. Let me tell you, green is the color of life, renewal, nature, and energy. Green, the color of growth, freshness, and fertility. Green, the color of tranquility, good luck, and health. So Just set your Roscoe Mixbook to Roscoe 91 and never look back. Green, the new black. This has been a public service announcement from No More 10 out of 12s.
Some of my favorite colors are green. Not always big green. 869 is pale yellow green.
869.
Is that close? Is that
555 nanometers.
Right. And Stan has it memorized.
And now, back to Light Talk.
Well, the sound of those rabid ducks in the background tells us that once again, it's time for our favorite segment, Let's Talk About. And this week, we're going to talk about something that is on the minds of all of us, and it's a serious discussion and concern that we have. And of course, that is what's happening with the whole coronavirus pandemic and how it's affecting our business. Because at that Chauvet workshop the other night, a lot of concert designers have been talking about it, because as of this taping, which is Monday, so this is going to come out in a few days, there may be more, but as of this taping, South by Southwest has been canceled. Many other concert events have been canceled. They've shut down a lot of live events, theater in Europe. Certainly in Italy, it's happening. One of my musicals is in danger of being canceled. And they're talking about the possibility of canceling Coachella, which kind of makes sense since you have hundreds of thousands of people sweating on each other within inches of each other. So this is kind of crazy, and it's getting very scary. I don't know. What do you guys think about this? Do you think this is going to throw the entire industry into a recession?
Well, I think canceling Coachella could be a good thing. I mean, Coachella's gone downhill over the years. But I do think you're right. I'm anxious to see what happens at the Cotton Bowl with the Rolling Stones concert, if that gets postponed. I'm about to fly to New York. I'm anxious to kind of see what the tourist situation is at some of the Broadway shows. I think people are worried. They might be overreacting a little bit as far as shutting down these huge events. It's certainly impacted. I noticed we have an XFL team in Dallas, football team, and attendance was down quite a bit yesterday, like maybe 50% down. So, people are reacting to this.
Yeah, I know that there are several tours that have been canceled, and it is a concern until they get their hands around it, because I don't think they have it yet, as of this taping date. What do you think, Stan?
I don't really have a handle on how it's going to impact our industry in particular, although I am reading things about, obviously gatherings of large people in confined places creates a condition for transmission. I also think that, talk about imagination, that it's easier to create fear when the thing that you're worried about is easy to imagine. So an asteroid hitting the planet and destroying it is hard to imagine, even though it would be incredibly devastating. So we don't get that scared about it but this, we all get sick. And so we can imagine what that's like to get a cold and to have it get worse and blah, 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 blah. So I do think there's a certain amount of overreaction. Maybe, and I'm just going to be contrarian here, maybe there's a silver lining to this. Not saying that people should get sick, but maybe what's going to happen over time is people are going to get sick. We're going to develop immunities to this. It's going to be another one of these viruses that's included in the annual flu shot, and there's going to be some rough times for a little while. And we all should just do the best we can as this thing plays out. And for the industry, boy, it's tough if you make your living that way. So I think that's going to be hard on some people. So grit your teeth, man. We're going to have to deal with it for a while anyway.
Yeah, it's hard, for people, like Stan said, who depend on this. But I don't know if you can be too safe, and look at what happens with cruise ships. I mean, that entire industry is probably going to go down the tubes. It's
been known for a long time that cruise ships are floating germ factories in the same way that schools are, in the same way that an aluminum tube at 30,000 feet is. I got a very nice email from Delta Airlines, which was kind of good to see because I'm, I don't want to get too personal, but I'm immune suppressed, severely immune suppressed. And when I go on airplanes now, I'm over 60. I have antibacterial wipes, and I clean that tray table and those arms and those buttons and the air vent and all that for myself. So now it's nice to know that Delta has what they do, and now they're telling me what they do. It's nice to know that they do clean the plane between flights. I didn't know that. It's nice to know that they use, a fog disinfectant on transatlantic and trans-Pacific flights. I didn't know that either. So maybe there's going to be a silver line that we're all going to be more conscious and careful, and maybe ultimately we have less flu cases because people just alter their behaviors. So this big global shock, in a sense, might end up making some cultural changes for all of us that actually benefit humanity. Now, that's just the optimistic view.
The thing that's going to happen here, too, is looking at this from a completely cynical point of view. We've all heard from manufacturers that there are too many trade shows. There's too much money they're investing. And this gives you an opportunity. I noticed, from what I read the article, and I think I read it correctly, ETC is pulling out of USITT this year, and they're also pulling out of Pro Light and Sound. And I'm pretty sure that they said that was a business decision. Verilight, though, has suspended travel to Europe unless it's a business emergency. They have people in Europe and Asia who can handle the business. They don't have to be flying over, and they're reassessing that a little bit and going, well, maybe, we don't need to be traveling at this particular moment in time. So I'm anxious to see, how this impacts LDI. Viruses do kind of retard during the summer months, and then they come roaring back in the autumn and fall. So I think, from everything I read, we'll see a bit of a pullback on the virus over the summer months, and a potential of a hard hit again in the fall. I think it's interesting that you see the development of the vaccine for the coronavirus actually started a few years ago with SARS. And so, people are a little bit ahead of the curve on vaccine development right now.
One final question before we move on. Our dean came into our faculty meeting on Friday to basically tell us to prepare to shut down the school at any day. And it may happen this week. It probably will, I would guess, because one positive test, if we have testing kits, I don't know how they're going to figure that out, they're going to shut down the school. Are you guys taking preparations in your schools?
So in Florida, we got a pretty extensive email on, I think it was Thursday. They're doing some pretty great stuff. They are putting extra cleaning going on with particular disinfectants on all things that are high touch, like doorknobs, elevator buttons, and so on. Every professor's desk is now being equipped with hand sanitizer. All travel to and from countries with high incidence have been restricted but we have students coming back. We're 48,000 students coming back from spring break from all over the world, 6,000 international students. So it was good to see the university taking a very proactive stance. So the school is doing all the right things. We have no incidences of the coronavirus in Alachua County as of last night, but Florida does have some, and there is a state of emergency in the state of Florida initiated, I think, 2 days ago. And I'm looking at. I have already spoken because I'm immune. I don't think of myself as an immune suppressed person, but the fact is I am an immune suppressed person due to medication, and I've conferred with my doctor. I've shared my doctor's opinion with my chair, and we've determined that if I will play it day by day, and I'll be telling my students today that should we start to see positive caseload at the university, I'll be conducting my classes via Skype or Zoom rather over Canvas. And I will cross meetings. I have search committees that I'm running, people coming to campus next week. We'll take it day by day and we'll respond accordingly. So I think everybody just needs to keep a cool head but don't underestimate it and don't overestimate it. It's sort of, one day at a time, not burying your head in the sand, but not also screaming fire from running from the building pulling your hair out either. So I think we're just trying to keep it calm.
Well, you know something? Events are happening so fast. This topic needs a lot more discussion. And who knows what's going to happen? It's only Monday. Now, a lot can happen in a few days. So the Lumen Brothers and sister have decided to have a little family get-together this Wednesday. We're actually going to talk about this very serious subject about the coronavirus and how it's going to affect our students and our profession.
All right, our next question comes from Buddy in Maryland. And he writes, why did Kleigl make a Leco and call it a 1357?
Oh, good question.
I think what they found was lousy was a bad name. So I think they couldn't call it lousy. They called it a 1357 instead. It makes no sense to me why they did it. I can't find any research online about why they called it a 1357, but they made a bunch of them. It was a long throw fixture ranging from about 13 degrees to about 8 degrees up to a 19 degree fixture. It hit the market in 1965, I believe, and it actually dominated the market for about 10 years. The Altman 360Q didn't come out until the mid-70s, so they were kind of unchallenged in this light. But boy, if there's someone out there who can give us a shout back on why they decide to name their lights 1355, 1356, 1357s, and that whole 4-number series, I would appreciate it.
I have the answer.
I have a guess. I don't have the answer, but I have a guess. So there's a reason why there are 101 folds on a chef's hat, and that's because there's 101 different ways to cook an egg. And often, I'm going to guess that somebody who had to do with the manufacturer of that light had children or grandchildren, and those were the birthday and years of those kids. Oh. I'm just guessing.
That's a total guess. I know what the answer is.
What is it?
What is it?
Because when they developed the light and they had someone focus it, they suffered 1,357 cuts from the fiberglass sheathing on their cable. That's what happened. And the same thing with 1355, they received 1,355 cuts from the fiberglass sheathing. What a piece of crap light that is. I'm sorry. It was horrible. And that's what we got to use at SMU when I first arrived there.
You know who will know? We need to reach out to Joel Rubin, who's supposed to do an interview with us.
He would know.
Because Joel Rubin was president of Kleigl for a while, so we need to get Joel Rubin to tell us.
Well, Steve, did you say that Kleigl pretty much had the quarter on Lecos back then for a number of years, right?
They did.
Yeah.
I mean, they really dominated the industry for a long time, and I think it was their refusal to change is what got them in trouble. And if you look at everyone else was making lights with interchangeable parts. You can take a C-clamp from ETC and put it on a Strand or a Phillips or an Altman. But boy, with Kleigl, it was like you had to have your own parts inventory. Also, I think the thing about Kleigl was they didn't do a lot. It wasn't very innovative in lamp technology. If you remember, that 1357 series was a double end tipped thing that went sideways.
It was bad. Well, the rocking sounds of the luminoids tells us that once again you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on Spotify, iTunes, Google, or just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website on lighttalk.org for future guests, and we have a special one coming up. And be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk fun.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
if you should choose to litigate, the law firm of Fleck, Flock, Flair, and Glare and their paralegal snoot will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, coming to you from Long Beach, Gainesville, and the Lone Star State.
And tune in this Wednesday for our special Lumen Family Roundtable discussion on how the coronavirus will affect us and strategies on how to deal with the sudden, enormous changes in our industry.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you this Wednesday morning. Goodbye from Light Talk.
So long, everyone.
Toodles.
Light Talk.